Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of SEC Power Rankings. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Please give me a like and subscribe down below. We are trying to grow this SEC channel. I really appreciate it, guys. A crazy week in the Southeastern Conference. It just means more, baby, and it meant more this week for a lot of teams. Vanderbilt, shout out to you. Arkansas, shout out to you. As a Texas fan, that hurts me to say, but really good wins by both those programs. Alabama, Georgia, what the hell? Or sorry, not Georgia. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia the prior week, what the hell? And we're going to jump into these power rankings. A lot of switching up, honestly, from last week. And you guys, you have to remember, this is who I would favor on a neutral field. If you have issues with that, drop them in the comments of why you think this team should be favored. Don't just be like, oh, you're an idiot. That's easy to do. Tell me why I'm an idiot. That's harder to do. Number 16, this isn't going to change. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see it changing unless somehow they beat Georgia or someone like that. They play Georgia this week, so have fun, Mississippi State. Number 16 is Mississippi State. They are the worst team in the Southeastern Conference. I do not see that changing. I think they have talent at the wide receiver group, and that's about it. If Blake Shapen was the quarterback, I would have said there. I think Michael Van Buren's okay, but he's a freshman. Everywhere else is subpar talent. I would put their talent, honestly, group of 5 level. That's where they're at everywhere else, other than wide receivers. I like Kevin Coleman. I like Mario Craver. I like those guys. They're good players. Number 15 is Florida. And guys, I'm going to tell you where I tier off here. This is still the same tier. Florida and Mississippi State. And honestly, you might be able to put Mississippi State in their own tier, but I'm not going to do that this week because I don't know. If they played on a neutral field, Mississippi State, well, they did lose at home, so probably not. So, yes, you know what? Mississippi State's in their own tier. They're the worst team, and then we move into this tier. Florida gets a good win versus UCF. The only game I basically got right on the SEC slate. I picked Florida to win that football game. Graham Mertz had a pretty good game. They were able to run the ball decently well with Montreal Johnson. Overall, good game for Florida. It's going to keep Billy Napier's job for another week, but I don't see him keeping it that much further. I have Florida at 15. We'll see where they go from here. Number 14, I didn't think I'd have them at the beginning of the year around this time. I didn't think at the beginning of the year I would have them here. Auburn, what the hell, man? Obviously, we know the quarterback position. Their defense is probably better than most people realize. Is it great? No. They have good weapons on the outside, but honestly, it's just the quarterback at this point. They do not have the quarterback to run that Hugh Freeze system. Jarquez Hunter is a good player. They make these simple mistakes that cost them games. You saw that versus Oklahoma. You saw that versus Arkansas. Untimely turnovers and simple mistakes. The simple mistakes I put on coaching, the untimely turnovers, I'm not going to put too much on coaching. That's a lot of the players doing, but they are my 14th team. And this is so Auburn and Florida, their own tier. Mississippi State, their own tier. And this is where we get into the biggest tier in the SEC. Number 13. I have the Missouri Tigers. I thought they were fraudulent at the beginning of the year. I picked them to go 8-4 preseason. I bet you will not find many other people that predicted that. They just lost too much on the defensive side of the ball. You lose a good defensive coordinator in Blake Baker. You lose Quadarius Robinson on the defensive line. You lose Rick Straw on the back end, the cornerback position. You can't lose those type of NFL players, especially high-level NFL players. I think all of those guys were top 100 picks, or those two guys were, and then there was other guys as well, at a place like Missouri, and then replace them the next year. So that's what I thought. And then Brady Cook, I love my comparison that I made about a month ago. He's Max Duggan. That's who Brady Cook is. He's a nice player, but he's nothing special. You do have special wide receivers. I think Theo Weiss and Luther Burden are very good. The problem is you have a good but not great quarterback. You have an average offensive line, and then you have a bad defense. That's not going to win many games in the Southeastern Conference, and you saw that. They got blown out by Texas A&M, and I think that says way more about Missouri. I think people are going to pump up Texas A&M because that's what they always do, and I think Texas A&M is pretty good, as in you'll see in my rankings. I have them up pretty high, but are they that good? No, absolutely not. Missouri's just that bad. Number 12, Vanderbilt, coming off their biggest win in probably program history. Well, it is the biggest win in program history. The only time they have beaten a top 5 team in the AP poll ever. The first time they beat Alabama since 1984. Vanderbilt comes in at number 12. Diego Pavia. It's hard not to like the guy. former wrestler, got into a fight with an Auburn player last year at New Mexico State, and he brings that toughness, that spirit, that grit that this program needs. When you go to an underdog program, you have to have an underdog at quarterback, and they definitely have that. He's a good player, too. So Diego Pavia at number 12, honestly, there's a lot of teams everywhere around the country that love to have that guy. Michigan would love to have that guy. Number 11, they fell quite a bit from last week. I think I had him 7th or 6th last week. South Carolina. They have a good defense. They have actually a really good defense. Dylan Stewart, I know his machine gun celebration, but that guy's a stud. I'd be shocked in, 3 years that if he's not a first-round pick. They have a bunch of veteran guys also on that defensive line, but the offense just isn't good enough. Where the hell is Nick Harbor? Where is Nick Harbor? Is he the 5-star guy that was like a 99 speed on NCAA 25? Just, let's not use that guy. Or is he not that good? Does he look like Tarzan, play like Jane type of thing? I don't know, but their offense, they need someone, and they do not have explosive playmakers on offense. I think Lenora Sellers is still semi-hurt, and you kind of saw that versus Ole Miss. And then their offensive line is just still bad. Like I talked about in the preseason, if their offensive line didn't get better, then it wasn't going to matter, and their offensive line hasn't gotten any better. Honestly, it might be worse, which is hard to do, seeing as you were the worst offensive line in the SEC last year. Guess what? You're the worst offensive line in the SEC this year. So you're consistent. Thank you, I guess. Number 10, I have Oklahoma. Quarterback. Honestly, I think their defense is good. I think it's overrated, though, after watching what Tennessee is offensively. I think Tennessee, honestly, is kind of lost offensively. They don't have a good quarterback at this point. Nico's not good. He's okay, but he's not good. He's been overrated. A couple weeks ago, I said Tennessee fans think he's great, but he's good. I was wrong. He's not even good. We talked about that on the other video. I just have them. There's too many questions. How are you going to run the ball? Javonte Barnes averaging like 3 yards a carry. Gavin Sawchuk's averaging 1 yard a carry. Taylor Tatum, the freshman's averaging 6, but it's only on like 18 carries. Jackson Arnold is still your second leading rusher. He has not played in a game and a half. So how are you going to run the ball? And then you have a quarterback who's not a great passer. That is not a good combination. You have to be able to do one of the two. And then the defense is slightly overrated. So I have Oklahoma at 10. Could I come back to eat my words this week? Absolutely. Red River makes me do that quite a bit because Texas, for whatever reason, even when they're the better team, which hasn't been very often, has not won this game. So Oklahoma is number 10. Arkansas is number 9. Great win. Taylor Green was playing well in that game before he got hurt. Kind of a cheap shot, honestly, by Tennessee there. Their defense has played way better than I thought it was going to. Their defensive line's been pretty good. Their secondary's been pretty good. That Slaughter guy, by the way, flies around. Very good player. Tennessee, don't know how you let him go. But Arkansas, again, just too many questions. Taylor Green is way too inconsistent. If I get the best version of Taylor Green week to week, Arkansas is undefeated and they're in the top 10 in the country. And we're talking about another special season for Sam Pittman and the Hogs. I just don't think that's going to happen because, again, Taylor Green is too inconsistent. You're going to see games where he plays up to his talent level and they're going to be very good. And then you're going to see other games where he doesn't. He didn't have a very good Oklahoma State game. That's why they lost that game. I believe he had 2 interceptions in that game. So that's the quarterback question there for them as well. And that's a lot of these teams, honestly, is why they're ranked lower than they could be is the quarterback question. That is not the question for this team. The question for this team is defense. I have LSU number 8. They did have a better game for South Alabama, and South Alabama is a solid football team. But I need to see it better versus better of a competition. And what do you know? You play Ole Miss this week. If you hold Ole Miss to 24 points, that puts you on par with the South Carolinas, the Kentuckys. You do that with Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback, Kyron Lacey at wide receiver, and a running game that has actually been better than I thought. I thought it was really bad coming into there. It's been an average. This team might make the playoffs and might make me eat my words. I said Missouri and LSU were the 2 most overrated teams in the SEC. I was dead right on Missouri. It's still, I don't know yet on LSU. We will have to see. So we'll see about the defense. Number 7, I have A&M. I don't know who the quarterback is. Marcel Reed, I believe, runs the Colin Klein offense better, what he wants to do. But if Connor Wegman is going to play like that, then he's the quarterback. The problem is I don't think he is. Go look at the back of his bubblegum card or his baseball card, like they used to say, whatever the saying was. Go look at the back of his card. He's throwing like 62, 63%, I believe, on his career is his completion percentage. His yards per attempt isn't that good either. So to me, that was an outlier game versus a bad Missouri defense. I need to see him do it versus better competition on a week in and week out basis. We saw it last year with Miami too. Miami didn't have a good defense. So what you're telling me is versus bad defenses, you can play well. that should be expected. You're a former 5-star recruit. Can you do it versus better defenses? We will find out. You play Texas at the end of the year. You play South Carolina, who has a good defense. Are they a good overall team? No. If LSU's defense continues to trend in the right direction, you play them. But that's the thing, too. They have an easy schedule. So I don't know. Maybe he won't get tested again. We will find out. Number 6, I have Kentucky. Kentucky jumped up a lot on their bye week. It was a good week to have a bye week. Kentucky, to me, quarterback again. Can Brock Vandergrift just do what he did in the Ole Miss game consistently? Complete short to intermediate passes, hit 1 or 2 deep balls, and get out of the pocket and run and scramble with his legs. He does need to hang around in the pocket, though, when it's clean. I saw that a bunch versus Ole Miss. That is going to get you into so much trouble, guys, if you do that versus better teams. Like, if you do that versus the Alabamas of the world, the Texas of the world, honestly, that's maybe could get away with it versus Alabama. I don't know. But the upper echelon teams, the teams that are national championship contenders, if you do that, and maybe there's not that many this year, and maybe you can get away with it more than usual, then you may be in trouble. I don't know. There's so many questions just in general about the college football season. Maybe Kentucky will surprise me and jump up higher. I had them at 8-4. They may do those expectations, which I thought was higher than most people, and it was, but I still may be wrong. They could be like a 9-3, 10-2 team. But for now, they are number 6. And remember, neutral site, because I know people are going to get pissed at this. I have Ole Miss 5. If you want to switch Ole Miss and Kentucky, that's fine. But I believe on a neutral field, and I know it was at home, if you play that game 10 out of 10 times, I think Ole Miss would win. I think it'd be close, but I think they would win. That game was perfectly designed for Kentucky to win that football game. 40 minutes time of possession. They ran the ball effectively. They were able to hit some shots down the field, and Brock Vandergrift had his best game. And they barely won. So that is why I think Ole Miss would beat them more times on a neutral field than Kentucky would beat Ole Miss. If you want to flip them, I have no issue with that. I don't. And remember, I said Ole Miss played at home. I know people are going to be angry about that, but that's my opinion. I can't prove it with fact. That's just my opinion, what my eyeballs have seen, what I looked when looking at the roster and the NFL draft pieces. Kentucky definitely has them too, but Ole Miss has a little bit more in my opinion. So if you want to flip them, flip them. This is the only one, guys, in my opinion, where I'm like, you want to flip 5 and 6, go ahead. I have no issue with that. On a neutral field, though, I do believe Ole Miss wins more games versus Kentucky than Kentucky wins versus Ole Miss. Tennessee, I have it 4. I have really big concerns with Nico. Really big concerns. When we made the video 5 takeaways, I believe he was completing something like 58% of his passes or 59% of his passes and 175 yards per game when you look at the Arkansas and the Oklahoma results. And that is not good enough to win a national championship. I don't even think it's good enough to win 2 playoff games. I think you might be able to win 1. You're not winning 2 with that quarterback play. He's going to have to step up and not live up to what his ranking says, because that would be great quarterback play or elite quarterback play. Can he just be good? I need good. Can he be, honestly, I'm trying to think of a good, solid quarterback. Can he be Diego Pavia? Not the running game, but just passing a little bit. I mean, you got to be somewhat good here because you have a really good team around you. You have Dylan Sampson, who's having a really good year. You have the defense, who might be the best in the last decade or two for Tennessee. It's really good. I just don't know about Nico. That's the question mark here. I know people want him to be great. He's just not there yet. We'll see if it happens, but I have Tennessee at 4. Number 3, I have Alabama, and again, you're going to get angry because I do have Georgia too, and they beat them. Neutral field, I'm taking Georgia to win that football game. You saw in the second half, they were able to exploit some things, and guess what? That carried over into the next game. Alabama had issue versus Vanderbilt because their defense isn't that good. Alabama has given up 67 points in the last 6 quarters of football. I've heard 70. I don't think that's right. I think it's 67. But either way, 60 to 70 points in the last 6 quarters of football. That is not good, guys. Their secondary is a big question mark still for me because you see Georgia exploit that. Vandy was able to exploit that a little bit, not much. It was mostly in the being consistent in the run game and time of possession. But overall, just not impressed. Alabama's offense is elite. There's no question about that. Ryan Williams, Jalen Milroe, deadly combo. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, deadly combo in the backfield. The defense is the question mark here. Number 2, I do have Georgia. The slow starts will get them beat versus most teams. Or, sorry, not most teams. Versus a few teams. Versus most teams is not going to matter. Slow start versus Auburn, won. Slow start versus Kentucky, won. Slow start versus Alabama, lost. If you do a slow start in Austin, I'm going to let you know right now, Texas is going to beat the crap out of you. That's what's going to happen. So They need to do better at that. Carson Beck needs to start making better decisions with the football in certain situations too. They also still have not found an explosive playmaker. And to me, there's about one more game, and if they don't find that, they just are not going to find that this year, which would stink if you're a Georgia fan. It's good for the rest of college football, but we'll see what happens with them. I do have them at 2. And then this is the end of that tier, guys. So I have 4 tiers: Mississippi State, and then tier Auburn, Florida, and then Missouri, I believe. Let's see. Let's go back down here. No, Auburn and Florida tier, and then 13 through 2, all the way up to Georgia, I have a tier. Number 1 in their own tier right now. I know people are getting angry at this, is Texas. I think we're one of the most complete football teams in the country. The only weakness I see is our running game. The running game has to get a slightly better, about 1 or 2 yards per carry from our best back, and just stay the same yards per carry wise as a team. And that's going to be hard to do, losing Arch Manning for Quinn Ewers, because Arch could run a little bit, and that helps your yards per carry average. But we have to get slightly better in the run game. The defense passing wise, good enough. The defense against the run, good enough. Passing on offense, good enough. Protecting Quinn and Arch, passing them on offense, good enough. Definitely good enough. That's actually been phenomenal. Quinn Ewers, definitely good enough. Arch Manning, I even think at this point, after what I've seen, is good enough. So I think we're the most complete football team in the country, other than Ohio State, I think, has that argument. But because of the quarterback position, which is the most important position, I would give Texas the nod. This game, I'm going to be honest, I'm nervous. I'm only nervous because I know what happens in Red River. It's crazy. The better team does not win. That's not what happens in this game. Last year, Texas was the better football team. We lost. 2015, Oklahoma, better football team, made the playoff, lost to a 5-7 Texas team. These games are usually close. Out of the last 10 years, I think they've all been one-score games except one. And Texas is a 14.5-point favorite. You don't think that's bulletin board material? I will say it's going to be hard for Oklahoma to win, though, because they're going to have to rely on time of possession in a running game. They don't have much of a running game, and Michael Hawkins ain't going to win this game with his arm. So Texas is number 1. Could this come back and bite me? Absolutely. But right now, I don't think this is a debate. It really isn't. If someone wants to debate the 1 spot, go ahead in the comments. I don't see how you could. But again, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button. This has been another edition of SEC Power Rankings. I really appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you again.